Very good, mate. Thank you. Lovely to be back with you guys having a chat.
Absolutely, absolutely. Glad to have you on the roundtable for sure. So first things first, obviously, the elephant in the room is Kostya Tsyzu'z, right? Why now? Why is this a time since his pro debut? I believe the first time he's going to see Tim's fight in stadiums for world titles, T-Mobile, right? But now for this fight, he's going to show. Why is now the time for Kostya Tsyzu'z to show up to Tim's fight?
A couple of reasons, mate. Kostya and Tim had a little join up in Thailand pre his camp that went really nicely, and they enjoyed that. And circumstances for Kostya in Russia opened up a small opportunity, a window for him to get over here, mate. So we just grabbed it and said, yeah, let's do it, regardless of where it is in the US. Let's get you here. And so we did it, mate, and it's been great. He arrived this morning, and just as the press conference was starting, and he's had a great afternoon with the boys. I just left him now, so it's good to have him here, mate. It really is. It's a positive thing.
Okay, all right, Joe. Question for Mr. Jennings.
Yeah, so many opponents have been laid out there for Tim, and there's been pressure to fight in Saudi. What made you come to this decision for this fight?
Well, for most of this year, Tim's been pretty much in camp in the USA, and as you know, we initially signed for Virgil Ortiz, and we came back fairly quickly after the nasty cut on Tim's forehead from the Fundora fight. And we were all reasonably confident that it would heal up in a time frame and we would be able to roll on. So we went forward with Ortiz, but sadly there was one point of the scar for Tim that was behind everything else, and our surgeons wouldn't give him the clearance to go back into sparring. And it ended up being about another 4 weeks before we got that clearance. And in that time, we lost the opportunity for our correct length of time to go with Ortiz. So we had to let that one go, and then we went straight back to work, and this one was sort of sitting there. And so we had a quick chat about it with our promoters and said, let's have a look and see if there's any way possible we can jump straight back in the ring for the IBF belt. And to their credit, no limits in PBC, we made it happen.
All right, we'll come back to you, Joe. Just want to go around. Danny, question for Mr. Glen Jennings.
Yes. So what is your thoughts on the rumored fight between Errol Spence and Fundora? And would Tim be looking to fight the winner of that? Is there any talks of him being, the guy next up for the winner of that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a couple of interviews I've done this week, and there's like 8 to 10 names in the 154s that are all big names, and there's not one of them that we aren't prepared to fight. And that's just the truth of the matter. For us, it comes down more to who's available and who wants to fight, because we try to fight 3 times a year. So from a planning perspective, we have to keep on moving forward. And Spence and Crawford, if and when that comes off early in 2025, absolutely, we'd love to take on the winner of that, because that's a nice little unification. Tim will take the IBF belt home on Saturday night, and we'll be happy to take 2 more belts given the opportunity, whether it's Spence or Fundora.
Gail.
Glenn, great to have you on the show. We had the chance to visit with Tim at Split T a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Scar looks good. Thank goodness.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And he has called that scar V for vengeance.
Yeah.
And I've heard him repeat that several times now.
Yeah.
He seems very coldly determined in a new way for this fight. Would you say that you're seeing something similar to what we saw a few weeks ago out of him?
Yeah, I think you're right, Gail. I think what you're seeing now is the Fundora loss gave us all an opportunity after 7 years of highs to experience a low. And rather than dwell on it, we got back together in Australia and sat down and we took the positives out of it. And we said, let's just go forward and let's get Tim back to where he was pre-Fundora as quickly as we can. Not at that stage, none of us expected that the very next fight would be lining up for a world title. But you only get what you push for, and you only get what you dream about. So we went hard and we got it. And I think you're going to see it's a new chapter for Tim Tszyu based on the fact that he's had that experience now of a loss, and he's come out the other side of it completely focused and ready to go. And there's not one negative. We don't dwell on the Fundora fight at all. We take the positive out of it and go forward.
Tim seems to be part of a momentum surge of Australian boxing. It's Tim, it's his brother, it's Tszyu Murtazaliev. Are you feeling that surge coming out of the country? We are certainly seeing it in the United States.
Well, absolutely. And it's so good to see. We've got on Saturday night, Matteo Tapia, another one of our Aussie fighters, on Tim's undercard in a very tough fight. We've got the Maloney brothers, we've got George Kambosos, we've got Tim Tszyu, we've got Tszyu Murtazaliev, Justice Huni in the heavyweights. I mean, there's so much talent coming through in Australia that I think the Americans are going to quickly get a real good sense of the fact that we do develop very tough and very exciting fighters. And I think that's great for boxing in general, that you've got fighters that are, first of all, want to fight all the time, aren't really scared to fight anyone, and bring a certain excitement that sometimes lacks in some of the fights.
Absolutely.
I think they're going to be very welcomed, in particular here based in Southern California, similar to other fighters from outside the United States that have been warmly adopted. We have a chatter saying that he is fully riding with Tim and uses the hashtag Mexicans for Tim, very similar to the Mexicans for GGG when Golovkin was so embraced. So perhaps looks like he might be the successor, Glenn.
Yeah, we're blessed to have such a fond relationship with our Mexican boxing fraternity. We have so many Mexican fans for Tim, and he's got that style that the Mexicans love, and they love the fact that he's a guy that just wants to fight, and that's the Mexican basis of their history. That they have a history of some of the greatest and toughest fighters ever, and we're happy to be part of that and roll along with it. So yeah, every chance we get, we've got our Mexico hats on or our shirts on, and just enjoy the fact that we've got an alignment, as did Kostya, his father. For a long time, we fought a lot of Mexicans, had a lot of victories, but the Mexican people embraced him because they didn't mind him winning because he put on such a show, let alone the fact that it was a Mexican that was getting defeated.
We were a little mad at him after he beat Chavez, but we got over it.
You still bring that up every bloody time we talk, mate. It's time we moved on.
Hey, Base, any questions, Base?
Yeah, look, Glenn, pleasure to chat to you.
You too.
First thing, I guess I've got a couple of questions, but the main one I guess I'd like to sort of get an understanding of. Tim is huge. He's massive in Australia, all right? And I feel like that's a market at the minute that a lot of people have been speaking about as like sort of the next boom. So what, if anything, I guess, is his like obsession with, basically coming to America to sort of apply his trade? And then outside of that, why was the PBC the choice of promotional company to align with in America? You got Top Rank, you got Matchroom USA, a couple of other outfits. What was it about the PBC that sort of attracted you guys to make that partnership?
Yeah, good question. I mean, that's very true. Tim's following in Australia is a stadium following, so we do very well when we fight in Australia. I think for Tim, growing up watching his dad as a young kid fighting in the United States in the big stadiums, on the big stage and the biggest fights, and becoming an undisputed champion, Tim fell in love with what he's seen on TV, and it's been a part of him for a long time. He's always, from the day I was there when Tim was born, so ever since he was a young kid, had an obsession with America. And then when he became a pro boxer, he had an obsession with wanting to fight on the big stage in America. And he still says to this day, regardless of the amazing support, and we never doubt that in Australia, he still firmly believes that America is the superpower of boxing, and this is where it is at. So he wants to now crack the American market and become the next American, the next fighter that the American public embrace. So he's enjoying the process. He loves the camps here. There's so many advantages. Australia doesn't have a big population. So when it comes to finding sparring partners at Tim's level, it's quite difficult. Yet when we come to America, we have a smorgasbord of guys that are prepared to get in there and have a crack. So that's all helpful. But there's also too, in Australia, Tim's celebrity is somewhat of a problem in terms of distraction. So for me as his manager, it's great to just pack up a small camp of guys, bring them to America, and it's Monday to Sunday business without distraction in America. They're just here to train, just here to get ready, and just here to win.
If I could piggyback off of that just one moment. You said before, like, he's used to fighting 3 times a year, like 4 times a year. He loves to be active, and that's something that I'd love to see from him. And, you know, a lot of the American fighters, unfortunately, aren't as active as him. What's his level of, for lack of a better word, frustration at maybe not being able to move as quickly as he would like, generally speaking, over the last couple of years, due to whether it's the promotional stuff or opponents not being ready when he wants to be ready and stuff? How does he get through that?
Yeah, fair call. I mean, I suppose that's partially falls into my basket of what I need to do. And I'm always 2 to 3 fights down the line for Tim. And whilst I can do that and have a roadmap ready, they don't always come to fruition. There are circumstances that pop up that we've seen where we were signed to fight Jamel Charlo. We were deep into camp for Jamel Charlo, and he chose to go and take the Canelo fight. I don't blame him for that. Those fights and those payments come along rarely in your life, but that's what we're up against. So even with a signed contract, there's no guarantee you get the fighter through the ropes into the ring until the night of the fight. And then you all have the circumstances. Keith Thurman, we're deep into camp for Keith Thurman, and he gets a severe injury. And that's Tim Tszyu. That's the answer for Tim Tszyu is, well, I don't accept that I'm going home without a fight. So who's around? And Fundora was on the undercard. It was like a 10-second decision for Tim to say, yeah, let's do it. He wants to fight. And so there is a sense of frustration from me sometimes. It's like, guys, come on, you know, it's great to be ranked in the top 10, but there should be a bit more clout to say that if you are in the top 10, you've got to fight. You can't just disappear. You can't go on holidays for 1 or 2 years and expect to walk back with that ranking. That's just holding the whole 154 division up. So I'm hoping that now that the 154 is the red hot division, and that generally means that there's some good payments out there for guys if they are prepared to fight, that they all get revved up and jump on, because I need, for 2025, I need 3 more fights. So happy to negotiate, happy to get deals done, but they've got to be available and they've got to want to fight.